Come on, guys! Go! Let's go! Come on, man!
¡Vamos, hostia, vamos! Al paso, Slav.
It has been a day of emotions, as you can see, from Otis Lawrence picking up his back-to-back pole in event 2 in the races, and then Ismail Fassi picking up his second win, taking him all the way back to that first win last season in the first round in Australia. Well, we're back, ready to go racing very shortly in Silverstone, but I'm joined again by Alex Jakes, Cappuccini, and Nina Poole. It was a slow start there. I was just trying to keep mellow. Did you notice that a little bit? I was trying to be very mellow.
Give yourself some headroom.
Yeah, because basically we know how chaotic it's about to get as we go qualifying. We are going to be going around Silverstone. You ready for this one, Alex?
I'm not sure. Given what we saw earlier, I'm genuinely not sure what we're going to get. Got spicy. It did. Around Barcelona.
Yeah.
So if it gets spicy around Barcelona, what are we going to get at Silverstone? We're going to find out. But it's a great track and it's provided us with plenty of action through the years in real life and in the Sim Racing Championship as well.
Alex, alluding to the fact there was a lot going on there. I thought it was very mellow, actually, the last lap of the Barcelona race. Quite mellow, just chilled out. A lot happened. Did you enjoy it?
I mean, if you're considering that calm, I'd hate to see what a day off is.
Yeah.
Because that was anything but calm. But that's the excitement that you'd expect from F1 Sim Racing. It was very suiting. We had a chaotic race in event 1 with Bahrain, and we've now had a chaotic race with Barcelona. I think it's fair to say that we need Barcelona on the calendar permanently now.
Yes, please. It's a massive tick from all of us. Nina, our pit lane reporter, what's it been like down with the drivers? What have you picked up today on day 2?
It was very tense. I think every time you ask me, I say it's tense. I mean, we'll talk about it more later, but there was some exchange of words after that Barcelona race. I mean, as we know, it ended very, very dramatically, but I know we'll talk about it a bit more later. But it's great. It's a great atmosphere. It's great seeing the teams run in and either be angry, happy, sad. It's a mixing pot of emotions. And there's no place I'd rather be, Tom.
And you're deciphering all of it for us, so thank you very much for that. I'm really looking forward to this one. However, we can't move forward until we talk about Barcelona. There's still some adjudication going on after everything that happened. There were so many moments to pick up on that the stewards are still investigating.
Yeah.
It was crazy, though. What happened, Alex? What was it like commentating on?
Well, it was inevitable. It was inevitable. You've got to do something different at the end. You don't want to be the first car at the detection point, and this is where race control and the stewards have deemed that Otis Lawrence stood on the brakes, and as a result was given a 10-second penalty.
Have you lost your mind, man?
And you got the fact that Otis, we wanted to make sure that we got that in. I mean, that was the raw emotion afterwards. So the brake check that he had, an incident on Ismail Fassi, and then Jarno on Otis later on.
I guess it's an inadvertent. Brake check is quite a loaded phrase, right? Brake check is to disadvantage the driver behind on purpose. It's not on purpose. They're looking at each other, aren't they? They're looking at each other, and they don't want to be to the detection point first. So they're like we saw with Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc in Saudi Arabia a few years ago. So they're playing this weird game of can you be slowest to the line, knowing that if you're in the wrong position, you've lost the race. So that's why it's happened. Ismail Fassi's got no interest in what they're doing ahead. He's like, home win, here we go, let's go. So he's foot pinned to the floor.
Yeah.
They're playing DRS games. So that's how we've had that unfolding happen. And it's worth saying, Otmare's penalty that you saw come up at the top of the screen, that was in-game, that was cancelled, but they are, as Tom so eloquently said, still adjudicating.
Yeah, they didn't even get anything as a snack. We should provide
That's
something
a
for the
shame,
stewards.
you know.
OK, let's have a look at the updated classification as they stand. Underline this next word, currently. So stay tuned on that. Personal highlight there, just seeing John Evans, the series he has had in this championship, getting across the line and picking up a point. And the boost for Ferrari as well. We haven't mentioned yet, but Ismail Fassi returning Ferrari back into the points. Both drivers managed to do that because they picked up 0 points yesterday in Jeddah, Kai.
I mean, what an outstanding recovery. We went from a double DNF in Jeddah to a double point scoring finish in Barcelona, and that being a 10th place and a first place finish for Ismail Fassi. He said it was an extra special moment. Although it's just on the game, it's his home Grand Prix, so it meant a little bit more to him there. Very deserved of that victory, picked out his moments correctly. But John Evans, it's great to see him in a point-scoring position. We thought we were going to see him make it through to Q3, but a point at the end of the day, constantly improving.
P6, Jarno Opmeer next to the fellow Dutchman, Thomas Ronhaar. Many a battle before between those two. And then now the battle between Otis Lawrence and Jarno Opmeer, because going into that race, those were your 1 and 2 drivers in the championship. And Otis Lawrence, with that penalty applied, he's not gonna be. The emotions run high with him. I think that's the best way I can say that, Nina. That would be a real thump for him.
He's getting a bit battered emotionally, I would say, and emotions do run high for him. He's quite a sensitive person in the best way. If he's happy, he shows it. If he's sad, if he's angry, he shows it. And I think that makes a great storyline for us, but he needs to try and keep his head here. It's the last round of this event, the final dance, and things can all change in a race, as we can see.
Yeah, 14 minutes away for getting qualifying underway at Silverstone. That's what he's got to do, just focus on the next race now. It's not easy for the drivers to just suddenly move on. They still have a little bit of residue from that last race, potentially.
Yeah, but they do work on it, and they look at trying to clear their head and go again. I think it's tricky to go again knowing that the adjudication is still going on, that there could still be penalties from the previous race, because you don't quite know what you're moving on from. So the state of play up in the air, but they've just got to do what they do best, which is if you're one of the main contenders, like Otis Lawrence, who we're looking at the moment, you've just got to focus on the next chance, and the next chance is to win at Silverstone.
If you're just joining us today and you didn't catch any of the action for Barcelona, let's give you the driver standings now, just so you know what points are at play for those guys out there fighting for a championship. And Otis Lawrence picking up back-to-back poles, so you know he has it in the locker. He knows what he can do, as we will do that very shortly around Silverstone. But there it is. That's as it currently stands, with Jarno Opmeer still at the top and Nico Longe going into P2, which is remarkable. And I feel he had a lot of difficulties during that Barcelona race with setup and some sort of thing that was going on for him.
Yeah, he actually showed Nina and also the game afterwards what was going on from his side. And it wasn't a pretty view that Nico Longe had for the race at all. So a few technical difficulties on his side, but recovered really, really well to get that P4 finish on the road and bring home a nice haul of points that now finds himself promoted to second in the championship.
Yeah, okay, let's look at the teams then, where that prize pool is all heading to the largest portion to the top team, 122 points for Oracle Red Bull Sim Racing, 17 wins between both of their drivers. I mean, it's going to take something extra special from any of those teams below them to catch them and beat them, isn't it, Alex?
It is, but it's possible. They're in the mix. Alpine having a phenomenal season, great start for them, but yeah, Red Bull are the benchmark, and we'd expect that at the start of every year.
Decidedly so. Well, here we go then. Otis will need to make sure no more incidents like that will hold him back. Let's look at the schedule then, so you can know what is going to be happening and unfolding. We've done Jeddah, we've done Barcelona. That's indicated by those lights going out. Well done. Silverstone qualifying will kickstart very shortly, and then at 7:30 we'll be back for the race. Interesting enough, though, when you see the, we've been phrasing it as the arena where the drivers are, if you're eliminated out of Q1, brutally, lights go out on your rig. That must be, what's it like down there, Nina, for that?
The worst thing is the lights go out and they have to sit in it. They don't get out. So they directly see if their teammate gets through, them competing in the next qualifying sessions, but they just have to sit there twiddling their thumbs. It's brutal.
Yeah. Alex, why are you so excited about going to Silverstone? It's our 8th time now that we'll be heading there. Freddie Rasmussen has won it 3 times. It always provides excitement.
I feel like a lot of the times we've done this race, it's gone to the last lap in terms of a battle for the lead. I think if we're going to switch the lights out on the drivers that go out in Q1, we should maybe have some pyrotechnics, maybe some fireworks if you take pole position.
I wondered whether you were going to suggest that some maybe the hosts, if they get their predictions wrong, should have the light out. I should be just in darkness.
Oh, I like that idea as well. Nothing but good ideas so far at this stage of the show. Yeah, it's the OG Formula 1 venue, isn't it, Silverstone? Great challenge for the drivers, good overtaking opportunities, and it traditionally goes down to the last lap of the battle. But Freddie Rasmussen, pretty downbeat on his form afterwards, despite his prestigious record around here.
What is it? Pace is terrible. Is that what he said to you, Nina?
Yeah, pace is terrible, but I think he needs to give himself a bit more credit. Him and the team decided on that aggressive strategy early on, and he said to me, if not for that strategy, he would not be on the podium. So yeah, his pace might not be up to standard, up to his own standard, but at the end of the day, he's an incredibly experienced sim racer. He knows how to win a race.
Yeah, I know from the extensive looking at your laptop, Kai, you've got all the data. What I found fascinating, 7 races have taken place at Silverstone. There has been a phenomenal amount of podiums for Danny Berezny. So that's the sort of thing Alpine will want to hear to try and chase down Red Bull.
Well, what a great note as well. Berezny finds himself back in the seat for Silverstone as well, as you mentioned, those 7 podiums. So looking back on his results, Berezny, notably in the historic seasons of F1 sim racing, has performed very, very well at this circuit. And as you can see, he's getting ready for qualifying and getting some practice in on the simulator beforehand. He's had a race to take a breather, analyse all of his competition as well. I'm sure he would have been watching along to see what happened in the other race. But Berezny back in the seat, maybe a little bit too relaxed in the simulator.
Someone pop a window in the arena, because they look like they're feeling it after the races earlier.
Yeah, and he had a race, as you mentioned, he had a race off. There were driver changes. We discussed it earlier on and found, but I thought he was deliberately doing that.
Yeah, staring us down.
Yeah, deadpan towards the camera. There are driver changes which seem baffling when the likes of Ulas Özildirim comes out and then is replaced. And as you see, Josh Ido picking up a podium.
He's out and a half away from winning the race.
Yeah, that's it, mate. That's you, Josh. Done. That is Alpine. We've talked about the record of Danny Berezny. That's why he's coming back in to focus on Silverstone. And it seemed to work for some of the teams. It worked for Racing Bulls. Joni Tormula came in, it worked. And for other teams, it didn't work, that change. But you've made this decision. Is it a time management one? Does it allow the drivers a little bit more space to get ready for it? And as we see there, Ulas Özildirim back in the rig and 2 podiums to his name after 3 races for him.
Yeah, he's been looking strong, hasn't he? Joni Tommler did manage to jump in the car and have a great qualifying session, and also take home a couple points as well for Tommler. He seemed very elated with his results. You can see him pumping his fist after the race, was quite happy with the points that he took home. But Ulaš Osildrim, we know, a very strong driver, just needs to iron out a few of the creases and a few of the mistakes that he makes in the races.
He picked up points in his F1 Sim Racing debut, Julian Klaffenbach, who we see right now for Mercedes. And we say goodbye to Tycho Hardy. And Julian's back in, which he'll feel like, yeah, I scored points in that race around Jeddah. And he knows he's got a bit more confidence now that he's secured some points for his team. And boy, do they need it, Mercedes. It is a shock to see them at the bottom of the team standings.
Very strange to see them at the bottom of the team standings. The opposite to what we've become accustomed to in recent times. But yeah, the swap there on your screen, and he'll be trying to keep his point scoring run going.
I was really surprised, Nina, when I thought, like, I wonder of all the drivers you'd be interviewing or having a chat to, yet to have a chat with Thomas Ronhaar. Is it one of those drivers that you're hoping maybe will come up soon?
I spoke with Thomas yesterday. Do you remember?
Well, that was that then. Okay, great. Thank you.
It's all right. We'll edit that bit out.
If you could just turn the light off.
Yeah, we'll
on
go home.
me.
Let's wrap it up. Yeah, I spoke with him yesterday when he got knocked out of Q1, if you remember, and he was very downbeat.
That's why I try and avoid those moments where the drivers are out in Q1.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Duncan Houghlin back in the rig.
Are we sure?
Yeah, okay. You can never be certain.
All right, settle down.
I've been doing this since 2017, but you never know. I might just throw you a curveball. But yeah, Jan Halliday out, not the race he would have wanted around Barcelona. But Duncan Houghlin, the very hench. That's what Jack Crawford said. When you weren't here yesterday, Jake said, I asked Jack Crawford, the Aston Martin reserve driver, I said, how would you make a Duncan? He's hench. Yeah, it works out.
Brought that in.
Yes.
Brought him in for that quality analysis.
Istvan Bukki steps out. Alvaro Carreton, what an experienced driver coming back in. Is it a surprise for you in the years that we've been doing it, Alex, to see Alvaro not in as much as he might like to be, or a team decision to have Istvan in more?
I feel you can say it's about a ton of drivers, but on his day, he is absolutely phenomenal. But again, it's that consistency. We talked about it with Nico Longe earlier on. Like, can you find it every week? Can you make sure that your worst performance is a P5? Very, very talented on his day. He'll just be hoping to take advantage today of a Silverstone track that he knows well.
I don't trust my notes here. Nina, have you interviewed anyone from Williams so far?
I thought you were going to say, have you interviewed anyone today?
Day done. We're going home. I may have, Tom.
Yeah.
How very clever of you. Are you psychic?
Yeah, a little bit.
I did catch up with Alvaro from Williams, so let's take a little look. Alvaro, you've been with Williams since 2018 and seen this team's wonderful evolution. This will be your second race of the season. What are your hopes for it?
Obviously, we need to score big points. It's the main objective of the team. Nico did a really good job in Spain. Let's say a bit of lucky at the end with all the crashes. Istvan was so unlucky, he could have scored as well some points. And yeah, let's see what happens this afternoon.
Would you say being the longest serving driver of a single team gives you a little bit of an advantage?
Obviously, I know the structure of the team, even though it's changed since I joined quite a few times. But yeah, working with these teammates is really good. They are really fast. Obviously, now my role is a bit different compared to when I started, but I'm still motivated as always. So yeah, let's see what happens.
We don't want you to give away all of your secrets, but what was the strategy in bringing you in for Silverstone specifically? Do you feel confident with this track?
Yeah, I mean, it's a quali-dependent track. 90% of the result will be quali. It's really hard to overtake, even on the dry, on the wet as well, which is really likely to happen in this track, as we already know how's the Britain weather. So, yeah, let's see what happens.
Your best result in Silverstone was a P4 in 2019. You reckon you can go one better or three better?
I mean, obviously, I wish is what we practice for. It's the race win is the only place that I haven't finished yet. Hopefully, it will happen this season. You never know.
Well, you never know. The conditions are very interchangeable. You could get lucky today.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Obviously, now my objective is to score points because last event was really, really bad for me. That race just was knocked out in Q1, and I had the jump start. So yeah, we need to improve. Yeah.
Well, best of luck today, and thank you for chatting with us.
Thank you very much.
Such a great guy, Alvaro, a good egg to have around, especially when you've been filming and working with all of these drivers over the years. Did that sort of come across with Alvaro, sort of approachable sort of driver?
Do you know what? they were doing work on his sim rig, literally. And he goes, no, of course, I'll have a chat with you. Whilst they were literally setting up the rig for the qualifying. So that just shows how approachable the whole team in general. And like I say, he's seen the whole evolution of Williams. He's been there since 2018. Such a lovely guy.
And still searching for that first victory as well. And then drivers like Otis Lawrence come out of nowhere and in their debut season get that win. What keeps Alvaro going? I'd be fascinated to know, but in search of that first win.
Yeah, it's a long time coming, I think it's fair to say. Mr. Williams is a nickname in the scene. I mean, as you mentioned, very loyal to the team, clearly feels at home and that he has the right support behind him. It wasn't only until last season that Williams actually picked up their maiden victory in the F1 Sim Racing Championship. So 2025 was definitely a breakthrough year for the Williams team. So Alvaro saying, this year might be the year. Who knows? We've already seen some crazy things happen in the 4 and 5 races, that we've had in the championship. So who knows? Alvaro, we know he's a strong driver. We know he's consistent as well. Just needs a little bit of luck on his side.
Alex, we've mentioned Alvaro Carreton stepping in instead of Istvan Pukki, but there's a whole roster of drivers that we need to discuss now in the grid walk.
That's what we're going to do right now.
Please, if you may.
Starting with Mercedes, I believe. And told you it was Mercedes. There they are. Julian Clapperblock is back in the car. He's alongside Thomas Ronhaar. Ronhaar was in the points earlier on today. And then we move on to these two. So Clapperblock trying to keep his run going. Jake Benham, Alfie Butcher, they were in the thick of it, but you've got to say that they were in the second gaggle when it came to the battle earlier on.
Yeah, they were. It was a much better qualifying performance there from the McLaren drivers. We saw them make it much further than the Q2 departure that we saw, Q1 and Q2 departure actually, that we saw in Saudi Arabia from the two drivers. So an improvement from the both of them, but McLaren still searching for those podium results once again that we saw from them in Event 1. And I wouldn't be surprised if it came in Silverstone, a home race for both drivers and both very eager to be back up the front end where they feel that they deserve to be.
So Racing Bulls next. And our lineup, Ulas Elzaldarem, he's had a really good season so far, hasn't taken part in all the races. This is the way that Racing Bulls go about their business. Tom Manley, who was running in the points before he got his penalty earlier on, they are lining up and ready to go. The drivers all are aware of the race plan when they sign up. We move to Ferrari, who can call themselves winners thanks to Ismail Fassi, who got just his second career win, and John Evans continues in the second seat.
Yeah, John Evans doing a great job to pick up a point there in 10th position. As we've said time and time again, still finding his footing in the championship. John Evans, Ismail Fassi there, giving us a little bit of a cheeky wave at the camera. He'll be on a great high after his result, and I'm sure he will be trying to continue that momentum into this Silverstone Grand Prix. John Evans continuously improving, now finds himself a point-scoring finisher in the F1 Sim Racing Championship, and a newfound smile on the face of John Evans. You'll love to see it.
We do indeed. We move to Williams, who found themselves fielding Alvaro Carreton and Nico Longuet, who, as it stands, again, as Tom told us, adjudication is still in progress. He's up to second in the points. So Alvaro Carreton is a 2-time pole position holder and a 3-time podium finisher in the Sim Racing Championship. That is their lineup, and he's talking up his chance of being in the mix. He's chasing that first ever top step. Now, Tom Deacon cursed this team earlier on, so we have our fingers crossed for Thomas Gall and Joris Krozen. Krozen, who's missed the points just on one occasion so far. They were 2 of the 3 drivers eliminated in Q1 last time.
Yeah, it was a tricky time for the Haas team indeed. Both out in that Q1 session. Not much they could have really recovered from that one. Also finishing in the race 17th and 18th. So not improving from their qualifying results. But Silverstone, it's not a new day, but it's a new race. It's a new race, it's a new time, new opportunities for the two of them. Thomas Gall and Joris Krozen breaking his streak of a point-scoring finish in every race. But now in Silverstone, plenty of time for him to recuperate that.
Let's go to Alpine because they're having a phenomenal season. Second in the point standings, Otis Lawrence with that penalty that dropped him out of the points. That was a 10-second penalty. He had crossed the line despite all of the shenanigans that went on that last lap. And Danny Berezne on the bench earlier on, but a Silverstone specialist and a multiple podium finisher around here.
Well, yeah, let's also hope that the tempers have calmed a little bit.
Well, Danny's calm. We can see that much.
Otis doesn't really seem too bothered either. Seems like the tempers have kind of cooled down and been brought down to the level that they were before. Otis, it's so important that he puts this bad result behind him and doesn't let that play on his mind coming into Silverstone. The last thing you want as a driver is to be driving angry, because that's when the mistakes come out.
Okay, on to Aston Martin, who are sporting Duncan Hovland and Ruben Pedreno, who was involved in a couple of wheel-banging incidents in the last race in Barcelona. Duncan Hovland back in the car after being called hench by Jack Crawford, who was the runner-up in Formula 2 last year and a reserve driver for the Aston Martin team. They will be chasing Q3. That will be the aim for them. And we finish things off with the benchmark team, the points leaders, Freddie Rasmussen and Jarno Opmeer. Freddie Rasmussen, who has called his pace a bit average, and Jarno Opmeer, who found himself in the wars. It was quite un-Opmeer-like at the end of that race.
Yeah, I think we were both very surprised, and in the debrief we both had a chat about this. That's very unlike Jarno Opmeer. We know he's calculated, so of course he's going to try some smart manoeuvres. He's going to use 100% of his brain to try and get that advantage over his opponents, but Otis Lawrence, of course, reacted and read the situation. He knew exactly what game Jarno Opmeer was playing, and he wasn't letting it happen. Consequently, both of them tumbling down the order. It could have been a 1-2 finish between the two of them, which would have been a great haul of points for the championship for both of them. But Nico Longe, I'm sure, will be laughing a little bit in his Williams simulator and says thank you very much for the concurrent second position in the championship.
Yeah, I'm sure he is loving that right now. I'm curious to know, obviously we don't have a driver here, but the fact that Freddie Rasmussen, we know, has surpassed 1,000 points in F1 sim racing in his career. And if Jarno Opmeer had won around Barcelona, he would have surpassed 1,000 points. I'm just curious, as a question to you guys, do you think that the stats sort of are what they're bothered by, or it's just nice accomplishment? I mean, I'm just curious to know, because that hasn't happened yet. It's bound to happen in this championship this season. I wonder what that would mean to him as a driver.
Certain drivers, I mean, they just want to win. They want titles and victories. But every positive stat, the 1,000 points mark, that's a lovely thing to have. It's a great feather in your cap, because it says that for year on year on year on year, you have always been at the forefront of a very, very competitive championship.
Yeah, as we can see, drivers are still in the pit, and we're waiting for them to start navigating their way around the amazing, iconic Silverstone. What about yourself, Kai? It's a lovely accolade to have 1,000 points.
It really is, and it will be a little bit of a burn for Jarno Opmeer, because he is perfectly 25 points away from that 1,000 point mark. That would make him the second driver on the grid to have that 1,000 points accolade to his name. Both of those drivers being in the Red Bull team. So Red Bull, I'm sure, as a whole would be very happy to have both of their drivers on 1,000 points. But to answer your question, I don't think Jarno Opmeer is too bothered about that trophy up to his name. He's a 3 times champion and labelled by many on the grid as well, outside of the grid, the GOAT of esports. A lot of people praise him as the greatest driver to ever touch the Formula 1 game. So Jarno Opmeer, I think the last thing he's worried about right now is getting that 1,000 points mark.
Nina, just curious about who you've interviewed again.
Should we go over it?
No. Just who you would like to potentially interview, not going out for Q1, not going out for Q2, but maybe sitting on pole position. Drivers out there you've seen that you haven't had the opportunity to chat to
I
yet?
am yet to interview Jarno. I'm dying to speak with him. But obviously he won yesterday's race, so you got him. The sofa got him.
Yeah.
But then if I speak to him during this qualifying session, that means he is not in pole. So again, I don't wish to speak to anyone, because I know everyone's aiming for the pole. But I would love to speak with Jarno before the week ends.
Yeah, that would be true. What a guy he is to chat to. He was so calm after getting that race win yesterday. Phenomenal to see. Right, quick predictions then. Who's putting it on pole? Come on, let's do it again.
Ooh. I'm going through the contenders, and I'm thinking, well, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be Jarno Opmeer. Freddie Rasmussen isn't happy with his pace, even though he's the form guy around here in the past. I don't think it's going to be Otis Lawrence around Silverstone. We're running out of options, aren't we? I'm not entirely sure. I think this is wide open. Given that he took pole earlier, let's go for Otis Lawrence again.
Solid choice.
Well, unlike Alex avoiding the question for a solid 30 seconds, I'll go straight into it.
Well, we can all give a daft guess immediately, right? So don't worry about that, my
As long as it's not Tom's prediction, both the drivers go out in Q1, then I think that's fine. Let's keep the hot streak going. Ismail Fassi for pole position.
Lovely choice.
Nice.
And just to say something different, Freddie Rasmussen.
Yeah,
Go on.
great.
Yeah,
great
amazing record.
shout. First, hot lap then, Danny Beresny. Best of luck. Enjoy this one, Alex Jakes and Kai Puccini.
Thank you very much, Tom Deacon. Here we go. Danny Beresny back in the field and at a track he absolutely adores. P3 is pretty appropriate. We have gone through the early stages of the 18 minutes where the drivers do not care, where they've been out there on the intermediate tyres. Now we get to the serious stuff. Beresny allocated this race, hasn't raced today. The others all going through the intensity of the race start of the qualifying 3 segments. And they are out there. You see the new names that we've walked you through as well. A return to the field for Julian Klaffenbach, who finds himself back in the Mercedes. Mercedes finding themselves with plenty of work to do. 7 minutes of Q1 on the clock to let you know where we are in the session.
I'm not sure about you, Alex, but I am very, very surprised to see Mercedes so low down in the order. I think in motorsport as a whole, Mercedes is one of the biggest constructors, one of the biggest names that you can have in Formula One. Even in F1 esports, they already have 2 titles to their name. That's 2 driver titles to their names in 2018 and 2021. Those being claimed by Brendan Lee and Jarno Opmeer in 2021. They were also able to claim the Constructors' Championship. So known as a strong constructor, known to have strong drivers, it's very surprising to see them down at the bottom of the order and not the form that Mercedes should be putting out on the circuit.
Very strange. Very, very strange, as you say. Alfie Butcher's gone over the line. He's done the second fastest time. It's Otis Lawrence, Alfie Butcher. Danny Beresny is in 3rd. Tom Manley is in 4th, chasing Q3 again. And we find ourselves with 6 minutes to go around this iconic Silverstone circuit, which has always been a mainstay of the Sim Racing Championship. Thomas Gall, as Haas tried to put their difficult run behind them at the last qualifying session, where they found themselves part of the 3 drivers eliminated. You're looking at Club Corner, which is the last on the circuit. Jake Benham is top of the pile. Otis Lawrence is in 3rd now because Freddie Rasmussen has made his way to the front of the field. Back in the field, Laszlo Soderem finds himself with the drive, and he's been in good form. He's been in the drive. He's maybe made a bit of a breakthrough last season to this.
Yeah, it was a very hard season last year for Ulas Osjoga, obviously getting that disqualification from the championship last year. So a big downhill moment to bounce back from, and Ulas has very much done a great job at bouncing back from that, and that's what you'd expect from a great driver. We've always known that Ulas has the pace. He just needs to avoid getting himself involved in these incidents. He's getting better at it, still finds himself in some silly incidents, does Ulas. 5 penalty points to his name already, the most out of any other driver on the grid, but hasn't accumulated any over the course of this event so far, and looking to take home the results where he can. If he's able to iron out those mistakes, I would put Ulas as a championship contender.
That's fascinating. But I think you're right in terms of the core pace.
Yeah.
And that's the bedrock of everything. As you say, a couple of wheel banging incidents that he would have wanted back if he'd had a second chance at them. Mm-hmm. Drivers circulating. You're looking at Thomas Ronhaar, who's top of the pile at the moment. A driver who went all the way to the last race of the season last year in the mix for the title. That was, like we had earlier, fairly spicy affair at the end of last season. We've still got the adjudication going on for the last race that we've seen. So the penalties we've told you about, not the full picture. We'll give you an update on the final verdict from the stewards and race control as everyone comes back for a little bit of a breather. So this is effective. We're about to begin Q1. Effectively at this stage in the eyes of everyone.
Oh.
And what's happened here?
Don't know. Otis Lawrence gets a
Thumbs
jump
up.
out of the simulator, a thumbs up. Maybe a quick dash to the toilet. You know,
Yeah.
it's the calm before the storm. He needs to relieve his bladder and get himself prepared for the rest of the qualifying session. He's a growing adult. He's only 18 years of age. So Otis doing what he needs to do before the laps get on the board. We're talking about the greatest driver pairing, Red Bull notably having the strongest driver pairing. Both of their drivers proving that they are notably at the top end of the session with identical lap times to the 1,000th of a second.
Yeah, pretty good. pretty good from the Revel drivers out front at the moment. So if you're wondering why we were surprised about the drivers leaving the rigs, you're not allowed to do so without permission. You just can't go. But equally, it's a very full-on day. You're only getting an hour in between sessions across the board. So it's Thomas Ronhaar top of the pile on a 24/7. Jarno Opmeer has also done a 24/7. Freddie Rasmussen has also done a 24/7. And that shows you that with 4 drivers on the same 10th of a second, it's nicely poised at the moment. A reminder for you, 3 drivers disappear at the moment in the drop zone. You've got Ruben Pedreno, Joris Krozen, again, great run heading into today, not working for him at the moment on that first one, and Duncan Hoffman. But it can all change, and this is the serious stage. A couple of drivers out front have decided that they have seen enough and they've done a time good enough to go through. And that is not the case for those who are trying to break in to the main positions and go through. This has become, with only 3 dropping out, this has become a really brutal. Q1 was always brutal, but this has become particularly grim if this is the stage of the qualifying hour that you're heading out of.
Well, there's quite a few times in Q1 over the course of this season so far, just in the 5 races that we've had, that there's been a few shock departures from Q1, and a lot of that is down to lack of time and driver error. If the drivers don't get a banker lap in, then they're always relying on that final lap. And if you make a mistake on that final flying lap, like Duncan Hoffman did in Saudi Arabia, that's where we saw him exit from Q1. No lap time on the board. And I think that has to be, as a driver, the harshest reality, because you may know you had the pace to make it through to Q2, but you weren't able to put a time on the board. So drivers need to be very careful in doing so. Luckily, everybody has a banker lap on the board, but Duncan Hoffland, his banker lap at the moment isn't good enough to get him through to Q2. I am sure we will see an improvement from the Aston Martin driver.
Thomas Ronhaar, Jarno Opmeer, Freddie Rasmussen, Jake Benham, Otis Lawrence checked out of town, and they will see us in Q2. And the others out, you can see Ulas Alderem back in the car and on an out lap at the moment. And perhaps surprisingly, Danny Bresnay down there in 11th is the driver that's caught my eye, given that this is his prioritised race of the day, and considering his strong form around here. This is going to be exciting. We go on board with Alfie Butcher, who is out there. You've got his delta, his improvement on his time was top right of the screen. With this current view that we've got, we'll give you the sector times as he goes through them. As he goes through Village Corner, all about rotation, slowest corners in Silverstone history at this stage of the World Championship era. And now he makes his way onto the Wellington Straight, chasing an improvement. P9 at the moment, fine, but this is F1 sim racing. The margins are never, never relaxing.
Yeah, a circuit where drivers can very much earn their keep. 70% full throttle around this circuit. High downforce means high degradation, which will become a problem in the race. We don't need to worry about that right now. As we head down to Copse, Alfie Butcher, Copse is all about commitment now into the infamous Maggots and Beckett section, threading the needle through this section with the car dancing beneath you at 250 kilometers an hour. There is no margin for error, and Alfie Butcher hooks it up very, very nicely. This is looking to be a good lap for the McLaren driver. Down
the Hangar Straight then, all he needs is a marginal step forward to book his place in the next part of qualifying. We'll focus on Pedreno, Krozen and Hoffland. Klaffenbach finding himself looking over his shoulder. Tamascal, Tom Manley as well, looking for improvements. Finishing the lap with Alfie Butcher then. Clock at 0, pressure moment on, and he finds himself with exactly what he needed, which is a time good enough. P5. Nicholas Longe goes over the line. He goes into 2nd place. That is a big improvement for Klaffenbach. That shows you what's possible out there. Big lap when it counts. Another super sub, Alvaro Caraton, goes into 3rd. So can those at the bottom find an improvement? It is Hoffland, Pedreno and Evans at the moment in the drop zone.
Tell you what, Alex, that's some improvement from a Q1 departure. Just a mere hours ago, Joris Krozen hits the top of the timing tables in Q1. Pedreno crosses line, and it's just about enough. Gets through in 15th position, which does mean that the drivers below him are going to be the ones eliminated from that session. Tamas Gau, John Evans, and Duncan Hoffland not able to improve on his lap. Those, unfortunately, are your departures from Q1.
Not by much, and not a lot of room for most of the field, but from those who were struggling all the way round as well. Duncan Houghlin at the back of the field. John Evans looked to have built momentum in the previous race, qualifying and the race in Barcelona, and Thomas Gall will be disappointed. But both of them, by the lofty standards of the time, had a bit more time to find there. So fundamentals at play for all three of them, and they can go try the alternative strategy later on when we go racing at Silverstone.
Oh, you can see the deflated Duncan Houghlin there. This is the second time he's been caught out in Q1 over the last couple days. A lot of work to do in the race. Maybe try something a little bit different on the strategy. Well, you have to throw a curveball if you want to make some improvements, especially from last position, 18th on the grid. His teammate, though, of Ruben Pedreño just scrapes through into Q2. Not the day that Aston Martin would have been hoping for. Thomas Gall, we can see there, not too happy with his result, as he will now also depart in 16th position from Q1. Different story for his teammate, though, of Joris Krozen, as Krozen seems to be the man to beat.
A reminder of the eliminated drivers there on the left-hand side of your picture. Not out by much, but that is enough at this stage. Silverstone, a track that's been around for a long time. It's for the championship, it's the complete opposite of what we had earlier this morning, where it was a foray into the unknown, and it certainly felt like that on the last lap. Very, very dramatic ending. Here, Silverstone is just every year. It's in the mix. It's a classic venue. It's a great race track for overtaking as well. And as a result of that, the standard is lofty. As you pointed out with Joris Krozen, I'm going to bring Thomas Ronhaar into that conversation as well. Two drivers with not much to talk about in the previous events qualifying, and then bang, 1 and 2 at the end of Q1. Yes, I know it's only Q1, but there's narrative left and right for both of them, because they will hope they can continue that form going forward. We know the big hitter is going to step forward when it matters later on in the qualifying hour.
Well, Joris Krozen has never scored a pole position in his 14 race starts that he's had here in the F1 Sim Racing Championship. For Thomas Ronhaar, the Dutchman, in 41 race starts, he's found himself on 12 pole positions. So a very strong qualifying record, that translating into 19 podiums, proving that qualifying position does translate into race results. So it's so crucial that drivers find themselves up at the front end, and Otis Lawrence, that man that you just saw on your screens, will be looking for redemption from the last time out in Barcelona. He will have been highly disappointed with how the race panned out. He was looking for a good result, second if not the race win was pretty much in his hands until those final stages where the incident occurred. Silverstone, he could turn his fortune around.
Let's go to the arena now and check in with Nina once again with an Aston Martin driver.
Duncan, P18, unfortunately not where you want to be. What were the struggles out there? Were there any issues you were having that we weren't aware about, or was it just a lack of pace?
I don't think the pace was an issue at all. I was on for a lap that should have got me through quite easily. Just Beckett's made a tiny mistake, turned in too early, and then ran wide, bottomed out on the curb. So lost a lot of time with that. So yeah, it is what it is. It happens, but very fortunate.
The margins are so tight around here, and we've seen actually all event just how tight the margins are. What can you do realistically from where you're starting? Hoping for some chaos, maybe some rain?
I mean, we've seen it in the previous race. A lot can happen in these races. So yeah, I mean, if it's a normal race in esports, then there's not much I can do realistically from so far back. So yeah, I will probably need something special with the strategy, and then hopefully guys in front will, I don't know, put each other off the track, and then I can go through.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how's the event been for you overall? How would you sum it up?
Not amazing. In Jeddah, pretty much the same happened, then invalidated twice. So quali has been really bad this season, this event so far. Thought I was improving a bit when I looked back on event 1. That was not too bad, but yeah, this event doesn't seem to go great. I think it is my weakest event as well, but still not really good to be at the back twice.
Well, unfortunate today, bad luck, but best of luck for the race.
Thank you.
Thank you to both. Never easy to do a Q1 interview. Freddie Rasmussen, not happy with his form, a little bit downbeat. That's a driver who expects to place on the podium every single time he sits in the rig. It's something that he knows very well around this circuit, but he was downbeat after what we saw earlier on, even though he was on the podium, even though that he'd seen the theatrics in front of him on the racetrack, because he knows his high standard and he knows that he can compete at the very front. He was our opening race winner of the year.
Yep.
And he's got great form around here, but he's not in the thriving place that we've sometimes seen, certainly the run-in for championships from Freddie Rasmussen.
But that's the position that you find yourself in. He wasn't happy with the podium after you've scored 1,142 career points with 44 podiums and 19 pole positions, 17 wins to his name. I mean, I could just go on and on about the numbers, but that proves the character that Freddie Rasmussen is. He's not happy with anything but perfection, and that's what's molded him into the driver that he is. That's what's made him such a successful driver, and that's what Red Bull sees in him. That's why they have him paired alongside Jarno Opmeer. And Opmeer, once again, a driver with also very similar characteristics. He's not going to be happy with anything but the best. The best is currently going the way of Freddie Rasmussen as he just jumps himself up to the top of the timing tables. The only driver to set a lap in this qualifying session so far, but still plenty of time to go. Anything can be mixed up here. Great to see Alvaro Carreton arriving into this Q2 session. Carreton, as we mentioned, the longest standing driver with any team in the F1 Sim Racing Championship. And with Williams, he feels at home. But does he feel homely enough to take home a good result?
We'll find out. We will find out fairly soon. He's the tracks where he's on, he's always in the mix. He used to absolutely adore Austria, for example. Just absolutely outstanding. A completely different circuit to the one we've got here. This is fast and flowing. Austria is essentially just a couple of hammers on the brake and the couple of corners in the infield section. This is where Duncan Hoffman was talking about bouncing it off the curb, and it is worth reacting as well. We almost take Maggots and Becketts as a given. It is not a given, and these tracks are, this one especially was LiDAR scanned by EA Sports for complete accuracy. So there's plenty of drivers who have gone around Silverstone circuit in real life going, yeah, I know that car. Yeah, I know that feeling of going slightly too wide and it costing him. He is one of the 3 drivers eliminated. Freddie Rasmussen is top of the pile at the moment, but no one's really fancied it at this stage. As we tick down, we've got 10 minutes to go, and we will bring you the real laps at the ragged edge, at the limit. But that's currently the driver to beat, Freddie Rasmussen, who I feel we've discussed at length.
Yep.
But let's now enjoy a master of this championship heading around Silverstone. Don't worry about Abbey Corner. It's not in the driver's minds at all. The first real stop on the circuit, though, very much is Sim rotating the car through Village.
Heavy overtaken point in Village there. Also a great overtaking opportunity that would be in the race. Now you make your way onto the Wellington Straight. Loop and Aintree, it's all just about getting your accelerator down and using the traction to power you onto that. Now we're into Sector 2 as we make our way through this section. It's all about traction, mid-speed, carrying that minimum, planting your throttle as you make your way onto the back straight down here towards Copse. Now you're picking out your turning point. You can't overthink it. You need to go in so committed, flat out on the accelerator, hit the apex, don't run too wide, and now you're into the infamous section. It's all about high speed balance and committing to every single apex. Drop of a gear down into 7th, hit the brakes, and dab down to 6th once again. ERS enabled on the exit, a little bit squirmish there from Rasmussen, but as DRS is now open down the Hangar Straight, you set your braking point for Stowe, pick it out of just about that 50-meter zone, and so confident on the steering into the corner through the final section now through Vale and Club. This is what Freddie Rasmussen does. He could do it in his sleep as he made his way to the line for the fastest time in that Q2 session.
Fantastic to get 4 onboard lap in and appreciate it around the circuit. A really, really masterful example of especially how aggressive he was going into the Vale turn. How much you almost prejudging that you can cut that corner without trying to invalidate your lap or unsettle the car. From one driver who's had plenty of success at Silverstone to Danny Beresne. Oh, that classic hammer your foot through the screen, style that you see. He absolutely provides the greatest brake pressure. They have to check the rig time and time again when he's done, because he's hammering that brake pedal and always has. Distinctive stuff.
Well, he was quite happy with himself. We were chatting to him earlier on in this season at Event 1. He said, you know what, last year was a good year for me. I only broke 5 brake pedals. And if you see the size of these simulators, they're not big simulators, are they, Alex?
No.
At all. And at 6'7" in stature, 202 centimetres tall, Danny Berezne is absolutely cramped into these simulators, and he doesn't take it easy on the brake pedal at all.
No, he is putting the full force in as well, but it's a wonderful thing to watch the off-board shot and the driver giving it everything. He's currently sitting in 4th position. These sessions creep up on you because they wait and they bide their time and they allow us to show an onboard of a full lap, and then suddenly we've got a flurry of laps and we're only catching certain cars around the final corner. Alpine with this distinctive livery, especially for the championship. Great to see the effort they've put into it as well. And over the line we go, and Danny Berezne has put new tyres on the car, and he's set the fastest time with a 24.6, which is to basically show you that we start from scratch right about now. It's time to get our first consequential laps of Q2.
Yeah, Danny Berezne now topping the order for the time being. 6 minutes and 20 seconds remaining in this session. Berezne will still have time to make his way back to the pit lane and also get another lap on the board. Alfie Butcher will get a lap on the board now and actually jumps Danny Berezne for the time being. If a driver sets a good enough lap in these first laps, they do have the option to retire from the session, which we've seen earlier on in Q1 and also Q2 for Barcelona earlier on. Today, Alvaro Carreton will cross the timing beam and set himself in 8th position in stone. Don't think that will probably be enough to get him through into Q3, but you never know. Anything can happen here. Joris Krozen to the line. The last Haas driver remaining in this session jumps up to P4 in the order. P9 in the order there for Tom Manley, as Joris Krozen is dropping down into 13th. Not the ideal lap that Krozen would have been hoping for, but it's so crazy to think that all 14 drivers that have completed a lap, Alex, are separated by less than 0.3 of a second.
Yeah, the gaps are absolutely extraordinary. You just compare Krozen's onboard, their braking traction out of Club Corner compared to the on-rails lap that we saw from Freddie Rasmussen. That was then, this is now. But you can see he's backed out of that. So Freddie Rasmussen with the benchmark time still of a 24.5. He's got a 0.02 of a second advantage over Ismail Fassi. You picked Fassi for pole.
Yeah.
Interesting. In the mixer. Thomas Ronhaar returned to the front. He looks like he's a driver rediscovering some form. Consistently, Q1 and Q2 now running at the front of the field. Ulazel Zaldarim looking, again, brilliant pace, developed pace, and back in the car with the 3-driver deployment strategy that Racing Bulls have got. Alfie Butcher in P5, and then if we look at those outside the top 10 shootout at the moment, Ruben Pedreno, Alvaro Carreton put into the car with Williams. Crucially, second in the points when we had the knowledge available of who got penalties. Nico Longuet, a driver with multiple pole positions, finding himself not happy, but ultimately getting the result that took him up to second in the point standings, in 13th right now, and in need of a lap with 4 minutes to go.
Well, Nico Longuet so far this season has done a great job at making the most of the chaos going on around him. He did the exact same in Bahrain. After post-race penalties were applied, Longuet came home with a 2nd position result, which is a great job from the Williams driver, and also taken home a 4th place finish in the race just earlier in Barcelona after all that chaos has started to calm down. I remember after the race, Alex, you were going through the audio, looked down, 4th position. Is that Nico Longuet that's finished in 4th? We were both a little bit surprised to see Nico finish so high, especially knowing the technical issues that he was having to deal with throughout the race. He did a great job to get himself in the thick of the action.
Yeah, he did indeed. Needs a big lap. Reason that he needs a big lap is that last time around was the personal best, and it's a 24.7. If you consider that Freddie Rasmussen's 0.2 of a second out front, if you're new to F1 sim racing, that might not seem like much, but given that there are plenty of cars, you've got 12 cars in between, that is something that he's really got to address. So final moment to gather yourself and then go again. Drivers still in the session needing And this is going to be the track limits moment then that's put the McLaren man in a bit of jeopardy. Oh my word.
Smallest mistake there from Jake Benham. I'm sure every F1 sim racing driver has done that exact thing. I definitely have there, and I've definitely had a few moments where I'm shouting and cursing at my game that it wasn't an invalidation, when at the end of the day, it is an invalidation.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's nowhere to hide. The parameters set, and that would have been by millimeters. But
yeah,
all four wheels beyond the white line, you know what that means. And so Jake Benham does not have the foundation to push on from, just needs to find that 10th place. 10th place currently occupied by Tom Manley. And the Racing Bulls driver finds himself with a 24/7. Everyone gathering themselves. Freddie Rasmussen, the benchmark time. Ismail Fassi finds himself in second. Thomas Ronhart, Zelda Alfie Butcher, Danny Bresnay, Otis Lawrence, third in the point standings, seventh in the order. Currently locked in fifth gear and waiting to get on with it. Alfie Butcher going through Maggots and then Beckett's. And he'll be hoping in a few moments' time to be going far, far, far faster than that.
Well, he's just taken us on a little bit of a tour guide there through Maggots and Beckett's. How thoughtful of Alfie Butcher to take it slow so we can really take in this LiDAR scan circuit and how good of a job they've done at that indeed. Alfie Butcher just making the most of his outlap, trying to run down the clock a little bit and get some heat into his tyres before he really puts pedal to the metal, like Danny Beresnay is right now. 1 minute and 7 seconds remaining. Yellow flags out in sector 3. I'm sure that will just be 4 cars running slowly on their outlaps, but Danny Beresnay currently sitting in 6th. You can't be too confident if you're in the bottom half of the top 5. He'll need a little bit of an improvement if he wants to make sure that he makes his way through to Q3. Currently sitting on a 124.671, a fastest time going the way of Freddie Rasmussen, a 124.555 there, and just a little bit off the mark, about just over a 10th from Danny Beresnay. Otis Lawrence as well. We haven't really said his name much in these qualifying sessions, as he hasn't found himself resounding up at the top end. But if we know anything about Otis Lawrence, is he will surprise us with a lap when he needs to most.
We've got a couple of bolters who, one returning to the championship for this race, Noel Zeldarim, showing good pace as we've covered so far. Thomas Ronhart, who they would have been expecting to battle all the way through, hasn't been a factor so far this year in a very un-Mercedes-like situation. Danny Beresnay only needs a marginal improvement here to get himself safe. He is on for a marginal improvement, as we saw from his Delta there. Checkered flag is out, pressure is on for plenty of drivers, including Jarno Opmeer in 8th place. These are unsteady moments. This is the driver in P6. Where does he go across the line? Up to 2nd position. That's exactly what he needed. A really well-judged lap from the veteran there. Alfie Butcher, we saw him winding up before. We'll see him across the line. We'll see him to 1st position in the order. That's a massive improvement, showing what's possible out there. Nico Longuet needed a lap time. Nico Longuet found a lap time. Jules Zeldarim finds himself P1 at the moment. Tom Manley, currently in 11th, gets himself no further. Disappointment for him. Otis Lawrence gets himself up to 3rd, delivering when he needs to. Final cars over the line.
It was a great job there by Lawrence until that final lap. The two heated rivals of Otis Lawrence and Jarno Opmeer were on identical lap times. Otis now separates himself from Jarno, says, I'm the one who's a little bit better here, but Jarno's still yet to set his time in the standings. Ruben Pedreño is going to be the next one to have a mad dash to the line. Can it be an improvement? Yes, it is, up to 5th position. Great job there from the Aston Martin driver. Thomas Ronhart, can he make his way through in P10? Yes, he can. But who do we have? A shock departure, as we were just saying that his qualifying results were improving. Jarno Opmeer out in 13th.
The top 2 in the standings will not progress into the final part of qualifying. Nico Longuet finds himself in 11th. Jarno Opmeer, the championship leader, finds himself in 13th, also falling at the 2nd hurdle. Jake Benham, Julian Klaffenpock back in the Mercedes, and Tom Manley, who did not have a personal best at the end there. Real disappointment then, and a shock. And a complete upending of the championship battle once again. Zeldarim showing everyone the way forward, but we don't have the top 2 in the points heading in to Q3.
As we say, it should just be the phrase of the championship. Expect the unexpected, because anything can happen here with the 18 greatest drivers on this game. Nico Longe will take a sip of his water, but unfortunately will not need to rehydrate him for any more racing for the time being, because he is out of Q2. 11th on the grid is where Nico Longe will want to be starting, and a shame to see a drop-off in performance in qualifying until these last two races, until event 2 here. It was always top 3 starts here for Longe, and it was in Saudi Arabia as well. Dropped to 8th position in qualifying in Barcelona, and now Silverstone finds himself down in 11th, so a lot of work to do from outside the top 10.
Well, Jarno Opmeer is going to be going for a different strategy, or an extreme strategy, and he's going to cause a headache for everyone out front, because they're going to have to react to him still, given that he's going to have to make big progress and roll the dice from 13th. We've seen that time and time again. We've seen him win from a variety of different positions, place on the podium from a variety of different positions, but what was one lap away from being a typical Jarno Opmeer type of performance has turned into a really tricky day for the multiple champion and reigning champion, and Jake Benham bemoaning the performance at the end. It was a personal best for him on that last lap, not missing out by much, but it was unfortunately not enough to carry him into the top 10. And so we will go again with a wide open battle. You have to say a wide open battle for Joris Krozen, a brilliant comeback after the disappointment of qualifying earlier on. Alvaro Carreton is in specifically for this event, for this race in the event, and he finds himself in P8. So the driver planning has gone quite nicely if you consider that El Zerderim has prioritised this one, Carreton has prioritised this one, Beresne has prioritised this one. It's gone well in terms of planning who's in the car and when. For 2 of the main contenders for the title, they find themselves out at this stage. And Otis Lawrence has a big opportunity now to put Barcelona in the rear view and claim some points back in the battle.
Well, you can put a good amount of cars in between him and Jarno Opmeer, and also Nico Longe as well, both out of Q2. But it really is anyone's game here, Alex. Ulas Ozildrim topping the times in Q2, but at Q1 it was Joris Krozen that was topping the times. Will we have a third top of the timing order for Q3? We'll have to wait and see as the drivers prepare for the final 12-minute dash in this qualifying session. A lot could happen. Jarno Opmeer starting from 13th for the race later on. It was just 12th position that he started in at Bahrain, where he took home that victory in that crazy race. So starting one position further back, I don't see why you can't do it again.
Talking of Jarno Opmeer, the championship leader, is speaking to Nina.
Jarno, the last qualifying of Event 2, before the last race of Event 2, unfortunately not where you want to be. Tough out there.
Yeah, you know, I think out of all my years in Avon Esports, this has kind of been my weakness, this track. Gone out, I think, twice in Q1, 3 times in Q2, so I knew it was going to be a little bit hard. But yeah, of course, after the pace in Q1, it was a little bit disappointing. Just didn't get the lap together. At the end of Q2, I think there was more than enough time in there. With a lot of random understeer moments, costing me a lot of time, which I don't quite understand yet in the game. Don't think I ever will, but yeah, it is what it is. You know, we can still score some points here. It's going to be tough to do a lot. Like in Bahrain. But yeah, I think there's going to be a little bit of damage limitation. Fred is really good around here, so I hope that he can put it on pole.
Well, you say this is one of your weaker tracks, but you've won this race previously, and you also won from a Q2 elimination last event. So what's possible?
It's of course never impossible. We can always have a chance at the win. Due to the dirty air, it's going to be a little bit hard to make a lot of overtakes this time. Of course, rain might come into play, but you know, it would have to be a dry to wet or wet to dry situation if we really want to take advantage of it, because in the wet, overtaking is completely impossible. So yeah, we'll see.
I mean, it is Silverstone. You can have 4 seasons across the whole track simultaneously happening at once. Are you hoping for rain, a bit of chaos?
Yeah, I think that's what we need, ideally, a little bit of rain. As I said, not the complete race, because then it's going to be quite boring, I think so.
But yeah, we need chaos. That's it.
We need chaos. Jarno's final words. Well, look, go well later.
Thank you.
Thanks to both. Nina was saying she hasn't spoken to Jarno up there, and as if by magic.
She spoke it into existence, and she got some great pieces of information out of Jarno Opmeer. He's excited for some wet weather racing. He got a little bit of a taste of that in Suzuka, but only in qualifying. And Nina is completely correct. I wouldn't be surprised if we see different conditions of weather in every single sector. It could be dry in Sector 1, rain in Sector 2, and snow in Sector 3. Why not? That would definitely throw a curveball into the works.
Even by Silverstone standards, that would be outstanding. Ruben Pedreno out there at the moment. He had a couple of, I was going to call them interesting incidents. Not what he wanted,
No.
but there were points where it was going to plan, and then unfortunately it all unravelled for him. I feel you can say that for a lot of drivers in this event. For Joris Krozen, for Thomas Ronhaar, for Freddie Rasmussen, for Ruben Pedreno, interested to see whether they can continue steps forward here, or whether we're going to get a reversion to type. Are we going to see a traditional order with the big hitters, and it's going to be a top three, including Lawrence Fassi and Rasmussen, or are we going to see drivers that have waited for an opportunity like this take their chance? Ruben Pedreno going out there nice and early, everyone else on an out lap, so he's gone slightly sooner. Danny Berezne is going to come over the line as well. It's really intriguingly poised. Multiple drivers back in the championship battle after that wild finish to the first event, the first race of the day, and no time on the board for Danny Berezne, who is circulating through the corners that take you on to the Wellington Straight, the Loop, and then Aintree, named for all the different venues of the British Grand Prix around the country in the past. Caution and the yellow flag in Sector 3 is just because everyone's lining up to go. So the queue will be completed. Joris Krozen's gone over the line, Alfie Butcher's gone over the line, now Otis Lawrence has, and there's plenty, certainly for Otis Lawrence, after no points at a race that he could have easily won, knowing that his rival is out, knowing that his rival is going to pull the trigger pretty early on a strategy one way or the other, if we get a dry race. Big opportunity for him to try and undo some of the damage of what we saw at the end of Barcelona. We are watching the lap from Danny Berezne. Let's see how he circulates through the final corners. Again, look out for signs of it looking like smooth sailing and how much movement there is behind the wheel. We saw that earlier on. Haas driver struggling, widest possible line, and across the line, let's see where he stacks up. His expectation will be to be ahead of Pedreno in the Aston Martin, and we go over the line. That's exactly what he's done by 400ths of a second.
That's all you need. All you need is 400ths of a second to get yourself up at the front end. But the man that I banked to put on pole position, Ismail Fassi, making his way through the final couple of sections now and planting his foot to the line. What can Fassi get to the line? Not enough. Sorry, I say not enough. It's more than enough for Ismail Fassi. Gets himself into provisional pole position, 1.7 tenths. Well, it wasn't lasting for very long, was it? Ulash Oziodrim comes to ruin the party and jumps up into the provisional pole position spot by 14 thousandths of a second. Alfie Butcher will cross the line in 6th right now. Joris Krozen is going to cross in 6th and drop down Alfie Butcher into 7th. Let's see what Caraton can do on his first run. He's going to jump up to 4th. Great job there from the Spaniard. But Freddie Rasmussen, he's been struggling with his pace. Has he struggled on this lap? Only one way to answer that, and that's when he crosses the timing beam. It's enough for second, and just shy of a tenth away from Otis Lawrence, who is now up at the front end once again.
Let's see where Ronhaar goes. Intrigued for this one, and he gets himself up to second. Welcome back to the party, Thomas Ronhaar. Form in Q1, in Q2, and now when it matters, 5 minutes to go, he finds himself 400ths of a second away. When Otis Lawrence went across the line, 3 tenths quicker than Ozelderim. You're like, wow, that's a statement lap. Ronhaar and Rasmussen have gone with him. And it's Otis Lawrence looking for another pole position today, looking for 3 in a row, and looking to turn the page on a difficult race finish earlier on That's a lap that gives him a great chance to go swinging for the fences later. That's what you're doing in the first part of Q3. You're setting your foundation. Further back, a strong lap from Alvaro Carreton. Danny Beresnay would have hoped, I think, to have been ahead of Carreton. Then Pedreno went first. Joris Kroes and Alfie Butcher finding themselves there. Alfie Butcher will be expecting way more. Something has clearly unfolded on that lap that did not go to plan. So everyone heading back for one last time, and then we'll set the order for the Silverstone contest of this 2026 F1 Sim Racing Championship.
Well, on his in-lap there, Otis Lawrence, when we were just looking at his face cam, having a little bit of a giggle and a chat with his engineers, that smile has faded off his face now. But what that indicates to me, Alex, is that he's quietly confident. He knows he has more in the bag. He's currently up at the top of the timing tables right now. For Otis Lawrence, that is his banker lap. So I wouldn't expect that to be anywhere near 100%. Let's also have a look at that lap, Alex. I mean, it was enough to be 55 thousandths in front of Thomas Ronhaar in second position. I mean, from my naked eye, not being quite on the level of these esports drivers, I'm sure if you were at the level of these drivers, you could pick this lap apart piece by piece and find these little margins, these thousandths, these hundredths of a second that the drivers are searching for lap upon lap. But Otis Lawrence clearly doing enough for the moment.
Leaning on, you're hearing the tyres squealing out in protest through Brooklands Corner. This is Luffield. How early on the throttle? Nice and early at the pickup. Let's see what he carries through one of the greatest corners on the planet. Oh my word, the car straining against the commitment that he was able to show. Continue the theme, listen in. That is a lot of curb. That is a lot of confidence. Now into the DRS zone of the hangar straight. So you're hearing pinned commitment on the way through. Another fast one to finish things off at Stowe Corner. A lot of curb again, well judged, leaving a bit of margin, but that's very much the Q3 amount. Not as aggressive on the curb as we saw from Freddie. Freddie Rasmussen is winning so much time through Vale, and he comes across the line, and that is the benchmark then. It's a 1:24.402. He finds himself 500ths ahead of Ronhaar, and as well, Freddie Rasmussen in the mix, finding himself 800ths back. They will all believe they're going to be on pole in the top three.
Well, watching that lap, there was actually a couple differences that I noticed between Otis Lawrence and, Freddie Rasmussen that we watched earlier in terms of their driving style and how they attacked the corners. Otis Lawrence very much always on that rev limiter. You can hear the rev limiter screaming for dear life through every single corner, and especially through Copse. We saw Freddie Rasmussen very calmly negotiate the car into Copse, keeping it in 8th gear and keeping those revs at a mid-level before making his way into Maggots and Beckett. On the other hand, Otis Lawrence drops it down into 7th. That already prepares himself for his entry into Maggots and Beckett, and therefore just getting on top of his game, maybe sacrificing a little bit of rolling speed through Copse, but also gains that on the entry into Maggots and Beckett as he doesn't need to drop a gear through the first few sections.
The theoretical best time that we're seeing projected on our screen is a 24.3, adding all the best sectors up. We're on a 24.4 at the moment. There is margin out there to improve. There is a chance for someone to take a big step forward. I wonder if Zaldirim will be pleased with the lap that he put together, because 0.3 of a second off is a country mile when it comes to this championship. He'll expect more. Can he find a lap that gives himself an opportunity and forces the others to come back? He has one pole position in the championship before. It was fairly debated, that pole position. So he's looking to try and do the business around Silverstone circuit, historic venue, and one that he knows. You put yourself on the first 2 rows, you got a big opportunity. He's done that at the moment. Time ticking down, though, needs an improvement to stay P4 minimum.
Well, we already know then if we see a 24.3 top the timing tables, it's a very serious lap indeed. Every purple sector in Sector 1, Sector 2 and Sector 3 all goes the way of different drivers. Sector 1 currently going the way of Ulash Ozzy Yildirim. Otis Lawrence is taking that second sector Third sector goes the way of Ismail Fassi, so evenly distributed throughout. Clock now strikes 0. No more time to play around. This is the business end of qualifying. Ulas Yildirim doesn't have long left in this lap. What is he able to do as he makes his way down the hanger straight now and around the final bend? Danny Beresnay only enough for third position, still 500ths off the time that Otis Lawrence set there at the end. Can the sister team in the RB here of the Red Bull drivers? Ulas Yildirim makes his way around the final couple of corners, well planted on the accelerator to the line. Is it enough? Yes, it is. A 1:24.347 there. Otis Lawrence responds with a 1:24.310. Amazing time's been put on the board here. Alfie Butcher, what can he do? Only enough for fourth as he jumps up. Alvaro Carreton has also snuck into third position. Still quite a few drivers to make their way to the line. Ismail Fassi known for his pole position result, but not today. Fifth is only enough. Freddie Rasmussen, can he improve on the pace that he said has been poor? It's enough for third. It's a second row start, and that's a good one there. Ronhaar jumps up to second. So close there for Thomas Ronhaar. 0.006 of a second.
Unbelievable effort. Back on the front row, Thomas Ronhaar, but it's Otis Lawrence once again bouncing back and consecutive pole positions for Otis Lawrence, who is enjoying himself when it comes to the ultimate pace. He has taken another pole today. He's got the moves to prove it on track and off track, and he is delighted with another point for his championship tally. He will be so pleased to make it 3 poles in a row. Thomas Ronhaar missing out. You could see he was so disappointed, but he's back in the fight. He's back at the front. And Yildirim, we said 0.3 of a second off. That didn't feel right. That didn't feel representative of what we'd seen from him across the course of the day. And then Freddie Rasmussen in fourth position, only 0.06 of a second away. Alvaro Carreton put in the car for this race and delivering. He always seems to find a strong one-lap performance. He's done so again with a P5. Alfie Butcher ahead of Ismail Fassi, and then you find yourself with Crozon, Beresnay and Pedreno, the top 10 for the race at Silverstone in a couple of hours.
I'm always intrigued to see what celebration Otis Lawrence is going to pull out of the bag when he jumps out of his simulator. Great to see the camaraderie there as Thomas Ronhaar makes his way over to congratulate the pole sitter. But Otis Lawrence always brings out the stunts in his celebration, doesn't he, Alex?
He really does.
One thing to mention, which I think is very, very interesting, Otis Lawrence achieved that pole position with 0 purple sectors to his name. Not a single purple sector went the way of Otis Lawrence that time. It was a faster sector 1 for Thomas Ronhaar. That's where he was able to gain a little bit of time over the Alpine driver. But Otis Lawrence, although perfection wasn't on his side, it was good enough to string it all together.
Yeah, that is the sign of celebration after the points went missing. It is a moment to treasure again. Every pole position needs to be celebrated, and it is once more Otis Lawrence smiling and congratulating everyone involved in the Alpine effort. And the Alpine effort is sizable for this one. He has delivered when it mattered, and he is the driver to beat at Silverstone Circuit. Let's have a look at how it finished. Thomas Ronhaar not missing out by much, but missing out by 6 thousandths of a second. Ulas Yildirim back in the car and back on the second row of the grid. We'll be joined by Freddie Rasmussen, Alvaro Carreton, putting a Williams in the top 5. Then it's Alfie Butcher, Ismail Fassi in 7th, Joris Crozon in 8th, Danny Beresnay in 9th, and Ruben Pedreno in 10th position. Otis Lawrence taking the pole. Nico Longuet heading out means that we found ourselves with the top 2 in the points, finding themselves with a exit in Q2. So Longuet, then Benham, then championship leader Jarno Opmeer, then it's Klaffenbach ahead of Manley, Gower, Evans and Hofland. That is the A team that will take the lights in Silverstone in an hour or so's time. Let's send it to the arena with Nina once again.
Yes, I'm with a familiar face when it comes to pole position. Otis, your first pole at Silverstone, more importantly, your third pole of this event. You are unstoppable when it comes to one lap pace. Your teammate Danny shouted, "I'm so proud of you." And honestly, that warmed my heart, the camaraderie they have in this team. But talk us through that.
Well, it was a decent lap, to be fair. It's actually a slower lap in esports than it was in league racing, so which I completely wasn't expecting. But lap was solid, to be honest. First sector wasn't the greatest, but you know, I got the lap together at the end. It's really adaptability session, to be honest. You know, jumping from a track with really high downforce all the way to a track with literally negative wings. It's really hard to adapt to, and yeah, it's been really intense day. I'm really tired at the moment. I just got to relax now, focus for the race. Hopefully we can finally convert the race win.
It has been a tough day. It's an intense day. What do you do differently in this race to ensure you convert this to a win?
Honestly, do the same thing as before. We could have won the last race, but things can happen in the races. Anything can happen in these races. So we just got to do the best we can always. Every session is a learning session. Hopefully this is the one I can win.
We've talked about just how intense this day has been. I would say much more intense than yesterday. Talk us through the incident at the end of the last race. How did you see it?
I probably won't speak about it too much. These things happen in racing. This is how sim racing is. It's very intense. You know, Jarno's a fantastic competitor as well. So we're all trying to win. We're all trying to win a championship at the end of the day. So it's nothing personal or anything. It's just how things go.
It's just sim racing. Thank you very much for speaking with us, Otis, and good luck.
Thank you.
There you go then. Nothing personal. Really, if I could say on behalf of us, a really mature way of looking at the whole day. 3 pole positions for event 2. Incredible for him. And he just knows it's adaptability. That was the thing he said. And he's definitely adapted incredibly well off the heartbreak of that 10-second penalty.
Yeah, you've got to put it behind you because if you turn it into 2 bad sessions, that's the sort of thing that undoes a championship. And yeah, you can't allow that to happen. He didn't allow that to happen. Super bounce back for him.
Yeah, he's feeling tired, fatigued from it. He's going to go and relax now. Kai, how would you relax after that quite exciting qualifying?
Disassociate myself from the simulator.
That means you won't be talking to us, JT.
No, get some food, relax, talk to the team, have a bit of a laugh. That's all you need to do. And then once it gets to that crunch time, the 15 minutes before the sim race actually commences, that's when you can lock into it, and that's when you can get back into the mindset of actually racing.
What is lovely to see in some respects, and also that competitiveness. He said it's nothing personal, that this is just sim racing, said Otis. It was the fact that Thomas Ronhaar came straight across, having a little chat to him, 6,000th of a second from taking a pole. And as you said, Alex, a pole should be celebrated, every single one.
Yeah.
What a difference it would have been for Thomas Ronhaar to pick up a pole.
I think he should still be delighted with the front row. He's still got a chance to win the race. He's in the mix once again. He's been anonymous compared to his lofty standards previously. He needed this. He needed this, I think, for his confidence, for his understanding of the game. He's put it together, and he's a contender later on. A name that we expected at the front from the very start of the year, finally finding himself there.
Thomas Gal, Haas driver, going out in Q1. Duncan Hoffman, that's a repeat of yesterday for Duncan, out again. And of course, John Evans, who just picked up his first point, but that invalidated lap time for Jake Benham, that would have been crushing for him.
Heartbreaking for Jake Benham, and to find himself out of the qualifying so early on. His teammate Alfie Butcher, it was a different story for him as he was able to find himself into Q3. Alvaro Carreton as well did a great job at jumping into that Q3 position. This was the first of the times that we saw go on the board, and I did mention it to you, Alex. There was a little bit of a laugh after that lap there from Otis Lawrence. He knew he had more in the bag. He knew he could pull out more on his final lap, and this is what he was exactly able to do across the line. Only an improvement on his time by a couple hundredths, but that's enough for pole position. Thomas Ronhaar, what a great way it would have been to score his first point of the season by a pole position lap. If he was 7,000th quicker to the line, it would have been enough.
Oh, you can see what it means to him, and the lovely dance celebration from Otis. He's got used to it now, 3 in a row. Ulash Oziljan, we mentioned earlier on today before we went racing around Barcelona when he'd moved aside for his teammate Yoli Tomola to come in. How fast he is, he's got the pace, and he thought he might have snatched it there, starting in P3 later on. Freddie Rasmussen, he said he didn't have the pace, he's proved that he's there or thereabouts. And as we see, Alvaro Clariton stepping in for his Williams team. But great to see Freddie up there, and he's going to be flying the flag for Red Bull because of what happened to Jarno Opmeer going out in Q2.
But this is the advantage when you have two proven drivers like they have. Jarno does have a qualifying performance like that in his locker, even in the championship years, right? So that is when Freddie Rasmussen is absolutely invaluable, because he is totally capable of taking the win, even though he's not particularly happy with his performance this year. But he is capable of taking that win and winning the races that Opmeer can't.
Yeah, some really fast drivers. They're all incredibly fast, I know that, but some incredibly fast drivers starting from P11. What do we expect to happen? What do we want to see happen later on, Kai?
Well, if you're starting as far down as P11 in the likes of Nico Alonge, you're hoping for the best. You're going for that alternative strategy. You'll be putting in the long stint straight away and getting onto those fresh compounded tyres and those quicker tyres later on in the race, trying to make up the deficit that you had from the beginning. So it's all going to be about strategy here around Silverstone, a high degradation circuit, so drivers need to be careful. They need to take care of their tyres, especially if you're going for that long stint straight away. Jarno Opmeer, starting from 13th. We saw him start in 12th position in Bahrain, and he took home a race victory. Will it be second? Will it be a race win? I don't know. He said nothing is impossible, and nothing's impossible when you're Jarno Opmeer.
Yeah, I'm hearing he's starting a rain dance now to try and get that going. Well, look, it's perfectly poised. Alex Chase, Kai Bacchini, thank you so much for the commentary on that quality. And thank you very much to Nina Jade, bringing us all of the interviews with the drivers. We'll leave it there for now. Quali is done. We have our pole sitter in Otis Lawrence. We'll be back at 7:30 to go racing in our last round of Event 2 in the F1 Sim Racing World Championship 2026. We will see you there. You better be coming back.